Tokyo, Moile Moshira. Your Excellency, he did an amazing job to look for ugali for Wanyonyi. I don't think...
I apologize for that, and President William Ruto says 500 sportsmen and women will be recruited to the disciplined forces to boost their training and nurture their talent. Now, the president says he has discussed the matter with the Chief of Defense Forces and the Inspector General of Police for KDF to recruit 200 sportsmen and women, while the National Police Service will hire 150. Now, the president hosted the world champions for breakfast at State House Nairobi following their performance in Tokyo. Now, the athletes won 7 gold medals, 2 silver and 2 bronze, which placed Kenya second globally, first in Africa.
See a finish line.
As the flag, we returned the flag and with very good performance. Second in the world with 7 gold medals, 2 silver and 2 bronze. So it was a really good performance out there. We thank you for your support, sir.
Say a big thank you to Ambassador in Tokyo, Moile Moshira. Your Excellency, he did an amazing job to look for ugali for Wanyonyi. I don't think tungepata gold medal kama ingekuwa ya ugali. Malizia finish line. Tupate ya men pia kwa the other side of men. Because we did amazing as women. We came back home with 6 gold medals and 1 gold medal from men's side. So men, you have to pull your socks up.
Greatness is our heritage. Mediocrity has no place in the Kenyan story. Just as you train for gold, Kenya must train for excellence in every field, in education, in health, in development, in innovation, and in leadership. Average does not raise a flag. Average does not unite a nation. Greatness and excellence does. You carry more than medals. You carry the proof that Kenya can be, and indeed.
All right, moving on, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki has called for the desertification of the tourism sector to increase Kenya and share in the international tourism market. Now, speaking during the opening of the Magical Kenya Trade Expo held at Uhuru Gardens in Nairobi, now the Deputy President emphasized the importance of expanding existing tourist attractions, promoting new tourism destinations, and attracting more tourists into the country.
Tourism is a critical anchor of Kenya's economy. We must also deliberate on how to market Kenya and the nuances that characterize the Kenyan experience. The Kenya of Twitter, now X, the Kenya of innovation and leadership, the Kenya that hosts the United Nations, the biggest United Nations facility in the global south is situated in this city. We must market that Kenya.
All right, moving on, Transport and Infrastructure Cabinet Secretary, that is the CS for Infrastructure, has announced that a special operation has already been launched by various security agencies to crack down on criminal gangs operating in Nairobi's Central Business District, that is CBD, and surrounding neighborhoods. Now, speaking during the Nairobi County Security Forum, the CS and the government will also roll out various programs aimed at creating employment to the, the young populations.
We moved in the first instance to 650 liters a month as we work out how to cover the most popular areas in our country. There is a shortage of police officers in many parts of the country, and Tijuana Usalama, as they raised, initially we wanted to employ 3,500 police officers to recruit. But because of that, we requested His Excellency the President to work to bring us together with Treasury, and it was agreed that we hire 10,000 police officers that we are recruiting from tomorrow. So from tomorrow there will be a recruitment process. I'm aware, of course, that there was a legal process in court, and one of the judges has given an order to stop the the recruitment process. I believe that will be sorted. I wish I would call the judge directly. I wish I would be allowed to call the judge directly to understand the consequence of a court order stopping recruitment of police that has never happened for the last 4 years, and how it is very critical for the safety of our country to recruit those police officers urgently, not just because of anything else, to secure our borders, because there are many police officers who have retired, some have passed on, and we need to replace and to bring energetic police officers who will be trained on time to really help us support the next elections. So I hope that the judge will watch my speech so that I don't need to call her, and will apply reason.
Right, moving on, former Chief Justice of Kenya, David Maraga, has officially been announced as the leader of the United Green Movement, that is OGM party, and its presidential candidate for the 2027 general election. Now, speaking during the launch event held in Nairobi, Maraga said he chose to join UGM because of its firm foundations in integrity, accountability, and justice. Now, he pledged to uphold the rule of law and respect the constitution if elected president of Kenya. Now, Maraga also announced plans to tour the entire country to popularize the UGM party and spread a message of governance reforms, promising to fix the current system, which he said has failed to serve all Kenyans equally. This announcement has sparked fresh debate in the national political scene as preparations for the 2027 general elections begin to take shape.
We are going to deal squarely with the issue of corruption. That has us and terribly ruined this country. We are going to give the necessary political will to fight it. We believe in teamwork, but we work with people who share our ideologies. Those who share our ideologies, we have two major issues to deal with: constitutionalism and the rule of law.
Now, the Health Cabinet Secretary, Eden Duale, has urged private hospital owners in the country to use formal channels when engaging with his ministry to address issues, particularly those concerning payments related to the National Health Insurance Fund, that's supposed to be SHA. Now, speaking during a meeting that brought together owners of private health facilities and senior officials from the Ministry of Health, Duale criticized the Rural Private Hospital Association for raising sectoral concerns. Through the media insisted of seeking solutions through officials' dialogue. Now, he emphasized that the need for constructive engagement to resolve payment disputes and other challenges affecting the private health sector.
Those 4 points of the pivot that make UHC, are we actually satisfying them? Therefore, I'm coming in today to say, today I want to listen, we want to hear what is not working, and we want to hear solutions as well. What are the things you're seeing that we can tweak?
Indeed, we cannot be able to talk about the increased life expectancy, the reduced mortality from HIV/AIDS, the improved immunization coverage, all those indicators, the under 5 mortality that has improved, the infant mortality rate, and all those good things that have happened. You have played a critical role in those indicators pointing towards an upward trajectory.
So the question I'll ask you is, as you discuss with us the operational issues, let us step up our mindset to our contribution to achieving this agenda.
Nobody will be discriminated, will be treated unfairly, because you people you have done investment, you have borrowed from banks. As you do your part of the bargain, Mercy must do her part of the bargain for the business to run and for Kenyans to get that health access. But if you people go and address us through the TV, first we will not respond to you, because you have an individual contract with SHA. So how do you address a contractual obligation through social media or that?
All right, moving on to some sad story right now. 4 people have died and 10 others have been injured following a road accident that occurred in Kanogoni area along the Malindi-Gase Road. And according to eyewitnesses, the accident happened after a passenger vehicle traveling from Malindi to Tana River suffered a mechanical problem with one of its tires bursting before the crash. Now, the Western Region Police Commander Francis Mwangi confirmed the incident and stated that those who were injured are currently receiving treatment and at various hospitals in Malindi. Right, at the same time, a family in Junju village, Kilifi County, is mourning the death of their child, that is Aston Tunje, who allegedly died after being beaten by a teacher at Ngongoni Primary School in Kilifi South constituency. And according to students, Tunje parents returned home on Thursday complaining of a severe headache. His condition worsened on Friday, prompting the family to rush him to hospital. Now, postmortem report revealed that the grade 8 pupil died due to multiple head injuries allegedly sustained after being hit several times on the head.
Tapaka huko aliko. Nikamfuata, alipoongea naye akasema acha nakuja, akaja kufika hapo akasema huyu basi hata heri ende ICU.
Hakika hiyo kitu iliniuma. Mimi kama mwalimu siwezi punish mtoto namna hiyo. Siwezi kabisa sababu mimi ni mzazi. Na tunawafundisha kwamba kama uko na hasira zako nyumbani, usiwahi ingia darasani, afadhali ukae staff room. Babu, tunashindwa ni jinsi gani mwalimu anaweza kuadhibu mtoto kwa kumgonga kwa kichwa. Na singesema hivyo ni kwa sababu tumetoka postmortem right now na ripoti ya daktari imetoka, inaonyesha kwamba yule msichana alikuwa na
mtoto amekuja, pengine unaweza kuona amekupotezea heshima, ita mzazi wake, kaeni chini, ongeeni.
Alright, moving on. Coffee farmers in Kiungoni, Trans Nzoia County say decades of financial exploitation have driven them into poverty. They accuse officials in their cooperative societies to embezzling funds, leaving them unable to sustain their livelihoods after nearly 29 years of unresolved disputes. The farmers have now poured into the streets demanding urgent county government intervention to end the standoff once and for all. They are also calling for full audit of the cooperatives to recover lost funds and ensure accountability. Now, local leaders have pledged to engage the farmers, but residents say only decisive action will restore trust and revive the once thriving coffee sector.
Ngani ndio imelipa pesa kidogo sana. This county imelipa 54 shillings kama ni mingi. Na society zenye ziko surrounding ni 110, 111, 90 kwenda juu.
Na ombi letu ambalo tunataka, hata kama tax force itakuja, ile ofisi step aside, interim committee iwekwe, ndio hii kahawa ambayo imeiva ipelekwe kwa hiyo cooperative. Lakini hatuwezi kupeleka kama hiyo kamati iko hapo.
Hii kahawa kweli tunauliza minister wetu na governor anatembea. Tunampenda sana. Na tunasema Uparanya usikie ukiwa huko usikie kilio chetu. Kahawa yetu tunapeleka wapi? Hii ofisi kama itusaidia hapa Trans Nzoia, tutafanya nini?
Kiungani ni area moja ambayo ukuzaji wa kahawa ni mzuri. Wakulima wengi wameembrace mambo ya kahawa, na sisi kama government hatutakubali leadership rango tena aanze kuua roho za wakulima. So ni jambo ambalo tutalishabikia. Hata waziri yuko hapa, nafikiri atatatilia maanani.
Now, police officers in Kisii County have launched a thorough investigation following the sudden death of a grade 7 student at Mosocho Boys Primary School. Now, the student reportedly collapsed suddenly and died shortly afterwards, and unclear circumstances. Now, angry and distraught parents stormed the school, demanding answers from the administration regarding the circumstances surrounding the child's death. Security officers were forced to intervene and calm the situation. However, the school management is yet to release any official statement on the incident.
Nilipigiwa simu asubuhi, sijui saa ngapi, nikaambiwa nikimbie Bosongo, na anaitwa Sister Matilda, ni head teacher kwa hiyo shule. Nikamuuliza kuna nini, mtoto ni mgonjwa, hakunieleza, akaniambia kimbia. Nikafika katikati, akanipigia hujafika, nikamwambia kwani kuna nini. Kufika huko akaniambia nikae, mtoto anashughulikiwa. Nikakaa kidogo, nisikukaa, nikasema nataka nione mtoto akishughulikiwa. Nikaingia kwa room next, hakukuwa na mtu. Nikaingia kwa room next, hakuna mtu. Nikaingia room ya 3, hakuna mtu, ananiambia mtoto anashughulikiwa, weka. Nikasema hapana, mniambie ninaenda na mtoto wangu. Nikaenda next nikaonyesha mtoto wangu amelala. Hata alikufa akaandikwa jina kitambo.
We have addressed the issues and now the situation is calm. We have talked to the parents, we have talked to the student, and we are sure that they are ready to continue with life, because when one dies, it's not the plan of us, but it's God's plan, and it has happened. We want just to wish each one of us that we take heart and move on as normal.
All right, moving on, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, that is the IBC, has expressed optimism that the number of newly registered voters will increase, contrary to the low turnout witnessed in recent days. Now, the commission, which is currently visiting universities to encourage youth to register, stated that its outreach efforts will bear fruit and significantly boost the number of registered voters.
Na kitu yote sasa, mimi raundi hii nimesema siwezi piga kura kwa sababu hakuna kitu inanisaidia, na naambia chenzi wenzangu tusipige kura, not unless our silence, with our silence watatusikiza.
Unapata watu bado hawajapata clear information about hiyo registration, how it's conducted, how it's supposed to be done, when is the period to be done with the registration. So you get unapata kuna shida mingi, changamoto mingi, ama unapata wanafanya mahali kama.
All right, students at the Technical University of Mombasa, that is TUM, have issued a 24-hour ultimatum to the Ministry of Education to resolve the ongoing lecturers' strike. While speaking outside the university premises yesterday, the students expressed frustration over having missed classes for the past 3 weeks. Now, a disruption, they say, is threatening the academic progress and future.
The government an ultimatum of 48 hours, of which, if they don't fulfill our pleas, we'll go out to the streets, join lecturers, we'll strike, we'll cause mayhem to the nation, and we'll make sure we'll get our demands. In addition to that, we can even form a committee for student leaders where we'll put our education matters in the table and represent us. In addition to that, we want the government to pay us for the time lost when we are not reading.
Leaders, we want to remind you that if you want to kill education in this country, we are going to stand strong as comrades, and I'm calling upon all comrades in the Republic of Kenya and your leaders that we must stand out, we must go to the street and ensure that we redeem the integrity and the dignity of the education system in the Republic of Kenya.
Failure to which we are promising that we are going to join the lecturers. Waswahili walisema fahari wawili wakipigana ni nyasi huumia, na ile nyasi ndio hulisha hadi hawa fahari. Sisi kama comrades, it's with our taxes that we are paying the lecturers, we are paying taxes to the nation, we are contributing to the development of the nation. But ni sisi bado wanatudhulumu, ni sisi tunaumia, sio lecturers wanaumia.
Now, leaders from Narok County have pledged to resolve the ongoing land ownership disputes in the contentious Emurua Dikir area. Governor Patrick Ole Ntutu has called for calm and peaceful coexistence, stressing the government is committed to ensuring justice in the redistribution of land. Meanwhile, area MP Johanna Ngeno is urging the government to allow the residents to harvest their crops before any eviction orders are enforced. The leaders are also emphasizing the need for close cooperation between the community and government, saying that open dialogue is key. Is a key lasting solution to recurring land conflicts. Residents, on their part, are calling for assurance of security and issuance of official land title deeds to prevent future disputes.
Naona imekuja na iko karibu kukamilisha ile shida ilikuwa hapa. Tumesikia shamba imegawanywa mara mbili. Wale ambao walikuwa wanafaa kulipwa wamelipwa, na sasa ile imebaki ni ya kupea wale pia ambao walikuwa wamepoteza mashamba yao hapa.
Tunataka kwenda kuajiri watoto 750. 200 ambayo ni health watakuja kutusaidia kwa hii hospitali, kama vile mlikuwa mmesikia daktari akisema anataka tuongeze madaktari. Na tayari tuko na wale ambao wanafrondia. Hawa ndio tutachukua kwanza.
All right, 24 minutes past the top of the hour. Taking a short breather here on the drift, but we'll be back with much more.
watching EBN TV, transforming you.
All right, welcome back to the program. My name is Martin Masher. Now let's take a look at what's making headlines on the dailies today. And I'm having the Daily Nation newspaper dated today, the 3rd day of October 2025, and as well as the Standard newspaper this particular morning. Now, top story on the Daily Nation this morning says inside the bungled hiring of 10,000 police officers. And there is a picture there of the IG, that is Douglas, the Inspector General of Police, that is Douglas Kanja, who argues his office is independent and cannot cede role. And the National Police Service picture is right there. That is Dr. Yuda Komora's team has called for online applications prior to field selection. Now, protracted power struggle between police chiefs and the National Police Service Commission linked to control of overstaffing and 60 billion Kenya shillings payroll finally spilled into court, where a judge suspended recruitment of constables that was set to begin today. Now, the bone of the contention is whether the commission is mandated by the Constitution to recruit. Of course, we had to take a look at that particular story in our subsequent stories this particular morning, and that's a story on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Now, on page 4 of the Daily Nation, how infighting has caused delay of police recruitment. Now, before walking into the meeting, the National Police Service, that is NPS, issued a statement indicating that it was consulting with the NPS on the appropriate legal remedies to ensure the recruitment exercise can resume at the earliest opportunity. Now, Justice Helen, that is Helen Wasilwa, suspending the order suspending the exercise triggered the meeting, which mirrored a similar gathering last month when two conflicting sides of NPSC reached a truce that cleared the way for the recruitment. Now, former Kilome Member of Parliament, that is Harun Mwao, secured court orders halting the recruitment. Now, the initial plan was to have recruits join police training colleges by October 1st. Right? Now, this means that the recruitment was already behind schedule. Since before Justice Wasilwa's order, it was order to run for 6 days starting October the 3rd. Right? Now, a few minutes to midnight, the September 9th, a cosmetic truce was reached in the NPSC boardroom to clear the way for the recruitment exercise. Now, the commissioners met again on a later date to iron out the thorny issues. Now, the truce was cosmetic because it was only intended to fashion the NPSC as a united front for the recruitment and thwart the court action with the potential of quashing the exercise. All right? That's a story exclusively on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. All right, now moving on to other matters making headlines in the Daily Nation front page. There is a picture there. Maraga made his way back to the front page of the Daily Nation. Now, Maraga says, "This is my promise to change Kenya." Now, former Chief Justice David Maraga, who shocked the country with a landmark verdict nullifying the outcome of the presidential poll in 2017, yesterday formally declared his bid for high office, anchoring his campaign on justice and fidelity to the Constitution. And that's a story on page 6 and 7, where the former Chief Justice, that is David Maraga, eyes the State House, the top seat in the country. Now, on page 7 of the Daily Nation, now Maraga says President William Ruto leadership style is the best example of how not to govern. All right, said his ambition to become president has been strengthened following his administration in UGM. Now, speaking yesterday, he has accepted the party's mandate. Mr. Maraga assured Kenyans that he is determined to fix the country's broken systems. Now, in 2017, he attracted the warmth of when President Uhuru Kenyatta was the Supreme Court. He turned his victory on the grounds that the electoral body had not complied with the law in conducting the elections. Now, Mr. Kenyatta at that time declared that he shall revisit, and he did just that. What is last, the budgetary allocation to the judiciary after winning a repeat presidential election. Now, his main opponent, Mr. Raila Odinga, boycotted the election. It was also believed that Mr. Kenyatta's decision to decline to appoint and promote 6 judges to the Court of Appeal and the Environment of Lands Court in 2021 was part of the what is quoted as revisiting. Right, that story goes on and on page 7 of the Daily Nation. Now, moving on to the corridors of justice, court recalls ferry balls over the 2019 Likoni tragedy. Now, Mombasa Court has issued fresh summons to a manager in charge of ferry operations over the incident that led to the death of a mother and her daughter. And I don't know if you can remember that particular story that happened in Mombasa, where a mother and her daughter were actually in their car, right? And when they are heading out of the ferry, you know, the car went inside the ocean in Mombasa. That's a story on page 10 of the Daily Nation. That was back in 2019. Right? Now, the Mombasa Court has issued fresh summons to Ferry Operations General Manager, that is Bakari Goa, over the September 29th of 2019 accident that claimed the lives of a mother and a 4-year-old daughter. Mombasa Chief Justice Ale Kithuku issued summons after Prosecution Counsel Alex Ndiema requested that the former Kenya Ferry Service, that is KFS, Managing Director, to be recalled to clarify critical issues relating to ferry operations that contributed to the accident. Now, the order came after the investigating officer, that is Corporal Moses Maihua, testified that only the ferry management under the leadership of Mr. Go at the time could respond to difficult questions he was being asked that led to the tragedy. Now, the order came after the initial investigating officer, Corporal Moses Mohino, testified that the only ferry management leader under the leadership of Mr. Go at the time could respond to difficult questions he was being asked regarding the operational failures that led to the tragedy. Now, Mr. Kaihua explained that he had only handled the file for 2 months before handing it over to the Director of Criminal Investigations in Likoni. That matters corridors of justice on page 10 of the Daily Nation. Also, Judge Hals KWS spark fee hike over lack of consultation. That's on page 10 of the Daily Nation. Matters corridors of justice. Also on the front page of the Daily Nation, other matters making headlines is inheritance wars divide North Rift wealth in families. Now, in the region, fortunes built over lifetimes are now tearing families apart as bitter fights erupt over disrupted wills and fractured loyalties. That's on page 20 of the Daily Nation. Also, elections shocker for Kupet and Wasu bosses. Now, the Registrar of Trade Unions order barring amended constitution in next year's elections is a blow to senior officials to the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education, that is Kupet, and the University Academic Staff Union, that is Wasu. That's also on page 8. Matters education. All right, now let's take a look on what's making headlines on the Standard newspaper this particular morning. And top story on the Standard newspaper says cocaine highway, and there are pictures there. Pictures seems to be a CCTV, draft picture, and there is a picture there of a man who seems to be a security officer. Also, there, it's like something shoddy is happening right there. Right now, marketed as a model of aviation security, JKIA now stands exposed as a soft underbelly in the global drugs trade. Investigations revealed how a British passport holder, that is Damata dos Santos, 28-year-old, was waved through checks with cocaine worth millions in his luggage, aided by handlers in uniform and plain clothes. His arrest in London, aided by handlers in uniform and plain clothes. Now, his arrest in London has left Kenya's law enforcement silent, fueling fears that East Africa's busiest hub is in the grip of cartel infiltration. Right? That's a story on page 4. Now, on May 13th, a foreigner walked into Kenya's supposedly highly guarded international airport carrying a briefcase packed with a Class A and B drugs that included cocaine worth millions of shillings. With surprising ease, he slipped through departures. Now, suspect, the 28-year-old man, has been identified by investigating officers as Damata das Santos. He was traveling on a British passport but believed to be of Brazilian origin aboard flight that is BAO64. Now, in September 2nd, Dos Santos had made another trip on September 2nd last year. He traveled again using his British passport, arriving in Nairobi on a KQ flight. 4 days later, he booked a flight back to London. Now, in June 16th, the Metropolitan Police confirmed through the newspaper the arrest of the Dos Santos, noting that they appeared before the Isleworth Crown Court on June the 16th, where he was remanded in custody pending trial on December 3rd of 2025. And this particular story is, titled Cocaine Highway. It's an expose by the Standard newspaper. Let's take a look at that particular story on page 4 of the Standard newspaper. Now, the foreign national walked into Kenya's supposedly highly guarded international airport carrying a briefcase packed with Class A and B drugs that included cocaine worth millions of shillings. There are pictures there, of the so-called Damata das Santos, head of London, through the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. On May 13th, he was later arrested at Heathrow Airport in possession of Class A and B drugs, which included cocaine. Now, also there are pictures there of, officers, security officers, seemingly to assist in the maneuver of the briefcase of which is allegedly containing Class A and B drugs. Right? That's a story on page 4. Cocaine Highway, JKA at the heart of international drug smuggling. All right, matters politics. 2 Kenyan activists abducted in Uganda. Now, the 2 Kenyan activists, Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo, were on Wednesday abducted in Uganda under unclear circumstances. Now, the 2 leaders of the Free Kenya movement had traveled to Uganda to join Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobi Wine, the country's opposition leader, on his presidential campaign trail. Now, witnesses said the 2 were seized from a petrol station in Kiereka, east of Kampala, where he had stopped to check on their car. At around 3 p.m., a van pulled up and 4 armed men alighted. Since then, their whereabouts remain unclear, with civil society organizations fearing for their safety. Their phones were reportedly switched off moments after the abductions. Bobi Wine, who was long accused of Museveni's government, accused the Museveni government of using abductions and intimidation against political opponents, posted on X saying the 2 were picked up by mafia style this afternoon from a patrol station in Kireka and driven off to an unknown destination. We condemn the continuing lawlessness by the rogue regime and demand that these brothers are released unconditionally. The criminal regime apparently abducted them simply for associating with me and expressing solidarity with our cause. And you remember these 2 brothers actually were abducted in Kenya some months ago, Now they abducted also in the Uganda Republic for, they were going there to, support Bobby Wine, whose actual name is Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobby Wine. They're now in Uganda, which Bobby Wine say they were abducted from a petrol station and what he described as mafia style, and were drawn off to a known destination. Right? We hope that they will be found alive. All right? Now, ex-man Dalmas Otieno given befitting send-off. That's a story on page 5 on the Standard newspaper. Also on page 1, on the second page of the Standard newspaper says knife, condom, HIV kids, chilling details of socialite murder case. Now, the suspected murder weapon used condom, HIV test kits, blood stains, and a passport were tabled at Milimani High Court yesterday. To the prosecution built a case against a prime suspect of the murder of socialite Starlet Wahu. Now, the images presented by the Director of Criminal Investigations laid bare the grisly details of the crime scene inside a South B apartment where Wahu's body was discovered on January 4th last year, that is 2024. Now, Police Constable Alan Joka described the scene in the room Y32 at the Papino Apartments, narrating how the security guard saw John Matara, the man who had hired it, live in a blood-soaked towel. Right? Now, the officer also presented 3 photos depicting the deceased bodies in a pool of blood. Now, other images captured smeared blood on the bedroom walls and the sitting room, a blood-stained tissue, and personal belongings of the deceased. Now, Rahma Abdul Modoni, a receptionist at the South B Hospital, not only narrated how Matara sought medical treatment on the same night. Now, the man identified himself as Frederico Pondo and said his age is 36. Now, Matara claimed he had been attacked by thugs and rescued by boda riders. Now, the doctor referred Matara to Mbagathi Hospital due to the severity of his wounds. Now, the former government pathologist, that is Peter Ndegwa, confirmed the 24-year-old socialite died from excessive bleeding caused by a deep stab wound on her right thigh. Jane Werimo Mutugi, an Airbnb operator in South B, painted a grim picture of how a normal booking turned into a nightmare. Now, the man later identified as Matara paid $3,200 in cash. Right? Now, when police broke into the unit, Werimo witnessed the horror, which he says from where she stood, she could see everywhere inside the house. Now, the woman who he says is Wahu was squatting near the door, her face down. Now, the case was adjourned with 4 more witnesses expected in court. I don't know if you can remember that particular story which made headlines in 2024. Socialized, that is, Starlet Wahu was murdered in an apartment in South B, what people call an Airbnb in South B, that is Papino Apartments. Now, and John Matara is actually the main suspect and is in police custody right now, and the case is actually ongoing, and we hope that justice will be served to, the bereaved families and friends, right? Now, other stories making headlines: court stops police recruitment as Kanja and commissions battle. We had to take a look at that on our Daily Nation newspaper, and as well as on a subsequent news here this particular morning. Right now, you're up to speed with what's making headlines on the dailies today. Also, before we wrap up our newspaper review, the red carpet rolled out for Team Kenya after a good show in Tokyo. And of course, you'll remember yesterday that the sports cabinet secretary, that is Salim Voria, and President William Ruto, and also the deputy president, that is Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki, they had a breakfast meeting yesterday at State House to celebrate the athletes who, made Kenya proud for being taking the second place out of 198 countries, right? And, you know, Kenya became actually the first in East Africa, right? Rather in Africa at large. It is exactly now 52 minutes past the top of the hour. We're taking a short breather here on the program, but when we come back, we're having a conversation with the film actors and the director. I want to take a look on the film industry. How is the industry as at now? You don't want to miss that particular conversation that's coming up to you after the break. Don't go too far.